Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. We are coming to you live from our post-game show, our instant reaction post-game show from Ohio State's 22-10 win over Northwestern to secure, Tom, the Big Ten championship game. You said it could not be done, and it was done.
4 years in a row, I said, there's no way. There's no possible way the team that is a heavy favorite to win the Big Ten could possibly win the Big Ten, and yet for the fourth year in a row, here they have proven me wrong.
Wrong again, Tomo.
Shameful.
This one wasn't as easy as we thought, and it wasn't our fault. There's lots of reasons for why it wasn't as easy. The Buckeyes had some players missing. This was Justin Fields' by far worst game as a Buckeye for a number of reasons, and we'll get into that in a bit. The defense was shaky early on, but they stepped up those first 10 points in the first half, and then nothing after that. But, Tom, this was Trey Sermon's show. He came into the game with, I think, 344 yards rushing. Today he rushed for an Ohio State record, 331 yards. Now, Tom, am I wrong in thinking that Ryan Day should not have allowed a one-year carpetbagging player to break Eddie George's record?
He did everything he could to keep Trey Sermon from breaking Eddie George's record. The two people in that stadium who did the most to keep Trey Sermon from running for 500 yards today were Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson. This is just this absolutely mystifying game where I almost don't even know where to begin. It's like that was maybe the single most dominant individual performance I've ever seen an Ohio State player have in person. It was maybe the most mind-boggling play calling I've ever seen in my life. You had guys like really stepping up. Justin Hilliard played an incredible game.
Awesome.
There's all sorts of playoff implications. We could go 3 hours. We need to start driving to Columbus at some point, so we can't go 3 hours. But if we had time, we could go 3 hours tonight.
The amazing thing about Trey Sermon is, he started slowly this season. Ryan Day and the postgame said, we were starting to wonder about him a little bit as well. Like, what's missing? Why isn't he maybe as explosive as we thought? Then in Michigan State, he does really, really well. And this game, he had, I think, 60 yards rushing in the first half on maybe 7 carries. Yeah, it was 7 carries, 7 for 60. And you're like, gosh, I'm sure everybody watching and listening were saying, maybe run the ball. And they had, Teague had 2 for 23, and then he got dinged up in the first half, and Sermon was 7 for 60. So those two alone were not being stopped. And yet, as you said, some mind-numbing, mind-blowing play calling from Ryan Day. Day said after the game, though, he's always going to be aggressive, and that's fine. But sometimes when the aggression has a bum thumb or things aren't working, or you're missing Chris Olave, and I definitely think he was missing Chris Olave. It just sometimes he couldn't get out of his own way in terms of just go with what works. I imagine this is a 2013 Ohio State team where Urban Meyer's just Braxton and Carlos Hyde just running for 400 yards and never giving that up.
Yeah, and I thought Day's framing that as being aggressive was interesting, because you don't have to pass the ball to be aggressive. You can just pound the ball at them and pound the ball at them and pound the ball at them and be aggressive with that if you're doing it at tempo. If they're not stopping you and you just keep beating them with the same thing, that's fine. That's not a that's not a lack of aggression. If you're running the ball fine, if you're running the ball well, if you're running the ball for 9-11 yards per carry, you can be aggressive running the ball. Where he was not aggressive at all, mind-blowingly not aggressive, was just kept kicking field goals, just kept getting down in the red zone and kept kicking field goals, and it was I don't know that the lesson of the 2019 Fiesta Bowl has sunk in for him, that this is not the time of year you win games with field goals. If it's 4th and 15, kick a field goal, that's fine. If it's 4th and 5, it's touchdown season. You gotta start, that's where you have to be aggressive. And there were a bunch of drives where, even in the second half, Sermon would be going, move the ball down into the red zone, Northwestern would tackle him once for a 2-yard loss and first down. It was okay, well, that's not working anymore. It's okay, what? Okay, 2-yard loss in the first play, some kind of a short pass on second down, incomplete pass on third down, kick a field goal. Like, throwing the ball there that's not what being aggressive means.
No, and we talked about it before the game. One of the ways that Northwestern could win this was Ohio State succumbing to red zone problems and kicking field goals instead of touchdowns. And if you kick enough, you're going to miss some, and that's a wasted possession. And they had a bunch of wasted possessions in that game, wasted scoring opportunities with the field goals both made and missed, the interception in the end zone. So this should have been a much different game, and it would have been maybe with more running in the first half and running down in the red zone, because there were times where you're right, they would, like, Sermon would go 65 yards, and then Justin Fields went 8 on the next one, and they're like inside the 12 or whatever, or 13, 15, and two incompletions after that, and now you're third and long, and it's, well, now we got to keep throwing. And I understand throwing on first down, and you're going to do that, but when you're getting so much push and success, and Trey Sermon is making all of the right cuts, and I think he had at least 4 rushes of 23 yards, and maybe 5. I could be forgetting like a 40-yarder in there because he had so many, and it was 271 yards rushing in the second half, which to me, I mean, that would have been third all time in Ohio State history.
Yeah, just in that, because behind Eddie and Archie had one against North Carolina, I think, and Ezekiel Elliott had one against Indiana. I think those are the only 3 that would have beaten that, and that was a whole game. So, I mean, he legitimately could have had a Jarrett Patterson, the running back for Buffalo, if you don't know him. He could have had like a Jarrett Patterson stat line today. 30 carries, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. If they had run him in the first half, and then see, the thing is then if you're pounding them in the first half like that, then you're wearing them down. Then those holes get even bigger in the second half. And I mean, like I said, I think the last 2 people in that stadium to realize that they were witnessing one of the greatest individual performances in Ohio State history were Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson. Like, are you guys not seeing this? Are you listening to, like, Spreaker or something on your headsets? Like, what are people not pointing out that, hey, every time you give him the ball, he's going like 10 yards, and it's going in the right direction. Like, that's a good thing. You should keep doing that thing until they show they can stop it.
He made Northwestern's defense look like it was a junior varsity level on NCAA football. I mean, he was just making all of the proper cuts, reads, running through people, barely breaking tackles. That last run that put him over the 314 yards, where he's stumbling and still maintaining his balance. It's not fair to say this is the Trey Sermon we've all expected. Nobody expected this, but everything we've seen here is stuff that we expected at some point. Not all in one game, but the body of work, this is what we expected from Trey Sermon. And so it was really good to see that. He was obviously named the MVP. I don't know if anybody didn't vote for him other than the people who just, I'm going to throw Justin Hilliard to vote because that's who I am. And he's deserving.
Yeah.
But when somebody sets a school record, you got to recognize that. And in terms of greatest individual performances you've seen live, I don't know. I mean, I was in the stadium for Eddie George's 314 yards, so that's always going to be special to me. That's my sophomore year. And, Illinois talked a lot of crap before the game, and the Northwestern didn't. So, there's that. But just what he did in the second half is amazing. He said he was in the zone, and things slowed down for him. You could tell. That's a very good description of it, as, like, nothing was too fast. And I think everything was a little bit fast for him before early on in the season. Yeah,
and he's someone who is, number one, coming off of a knee injury last year. So, there's a little bit of a ramp-up period. It's not, you don't just go from, okay, I'm hurt. Okay, and now the next day, everything's great. It's just like, you're getting better, you're getting stronger, you're rehabbing it more. And he's been fine since the beginning of the season, but he looks like a different back now than he did at the beginning of the season. I think that's partly the knee. I think that's also partly just, okay, now the offensive line was back. I tweeted out a picture of the offensive line, all 5 of those offensive line starters before the game, and said, oh man, this has to make Ohio State fans awful happy, because there they are again. There's no 4 guys in a different spot than last week. and then, so you get the line back. The line was opening up big holes. And I think Sermon is he's now getting the offense. He's understanding where the cutback lanes are supposed to be. He's used to the blocking in front of him. It's all of it. It's the knee, it's the scheme, it's just the comfort level. And it was just like, this was, you asked him the question, what is that like when you hear about baseball players talking about being at the plate when they're in the zone, and it's like the ball looks like a beach ball coming in. And he just said, like, it slows down. You hear guys talking about that all the time, but like, it's just, it's like the Matrix, where it's just like, Keanu Reeves just goes, I know Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And just, just makes the bullet stop. That was Trey Sermon, just like making the Northwestern defender stop. It was, that was, I don't know what other way to say it. It was one of the most incredible individual performances I've ever seen from an Ohio State football player.
And Mark will have the video up on at BuckeyeScoop.com here shortly. Just go check out the Trey Sermon interview and watch him when he talks about it, because he's like, it slows down and you see everything, and it's just interesting. I mean, who hasn't been in a situation like that where you can just see things coming? Your sixth and seventh senses are kicking in.
It's like the time I was at Kroger and I was way across the parking lot, and I had the cart, and I'm like, I can just boom, it's going right end, just like pushed it from like 30 feet away, right into the back of the cart in front of it. It's like, man,
that's good.
This is look at me. I am man. I am the king of all that I see.
Well, and then if another man sees you, like, they will recognize that. They'll be like, sir, I doff my cap to you. That was impressive. Because you recognize greatness when you see it.
Exactly. Game recognized game, as they
Perfect.
say.
Yeah. Cart don't lie.
Cart don't
as they say.
as we say.
In terms of Master Teague, right, they said he's going to get checked out. I think somebody said he got hit, maybe hit on the head.
Hit in the head, yeah.
So, I mean,
he was. I looked. I was down there. I was shooting photos today. Tony was up in the box. I made a point to look for him towards the end of the game. He waved to his parents and kind of gave him a thumbs up. So I think he's okay. I don't think that
maybe he thinks he's Fonzie.
Hey, 2 carries, 23 yards, 11.5 yards per carry. Hey. Yeah, I mean, that is a great stat line. And I mean, before we get off the running back position, number 3 guy out there, Mayan Williams, meatball, true freshman, who I think a lot of people looked at as like, well, they're just taking a leftover from Iowa State because they couldn't get the guy they wanted, and they're in the red zone. And who goes in when Trey Sermon is presumably needed a rest? I don't know exactly, but I assumed he just needed a rest. There's Mayan Williams going in and running hard, running well. Like, okay, they may have another good one there.
We get to see just little glimpses, and what little glimpses we see, it's always entertaining, because he is, I just said meatball, but he can get to the corner somehow.
Yeah.
And he's patient, and he is hard to tackle, and he has a second move and a third move, and I mean, we could talk about it in the offseason.
Yeah.
But this group of running backs next year is going to be interesting and well varied, and a bunch of different skill sets that they'll bring to the Buckeyes. Justin Fields, let's spend some time on that, because as I said, this was his worst game, and said he sprained his thumb, can't move it right now, doesn't sound great, but he expects he'll be fine. They'll ice it and he'll be fine in a couple of days. They've got a lot of time until their next game. Ryan Day said they'll continue to monitor it, but Fields did say, I don't want to blame this game on my thumb, and we don't know exactly when it happened, because he was kind of unclear on that.
Yeah.
But it certainly wasn't immediate, and almost from the outset, he was. That first drive was okay. I mean, it was a long, sustained, hard drive, which at that point you're like, should it be this difficult?
Well, that was. I mean, how many plays was that first drive? It was like
15 or 16.
It was like 15 or 16 plays
61
for
yards.
61 yards. Now,
or 51.
They scored a touchdown. It got called back on a holding call. You wonder how different the game is if that's a 10-play touchdown drive to start the game, and then you've sort of set the tone. As soon as you kick a field goal there, Northwestern has won that possession. They have gotten you off the field.
Yep, that's a win.
It took 8 minutes off the clock. So it's there's 6 minutes left in the first quarter. Northwestern is just getting the ball for the first time, and it's only 3-0. And it's like all Northwestern's trying to do is just keep the game close as the game, stay close as long as they can. That's a win for Northwestern if they get Ohio State off the field with 3 points.
I bet they're high-fiving in the press box.
The coaches?
The coaches box.
I was going to say all the Medill grads up in the press box. No, yeah, and I think for sure that's a win for Northwestern to get that. And I did not have a good look. I was shooting photos, obviously, so I had a great look at Justin Fields. I did not see the flag was behind him. I think it was on Harry Miller. I did not see how glaring that call was. But.
No, we didn't either because there are no replays. No, all of the televisions are just a live feed of the game. So we didn't get to see any controversial calls. They didn't really show many of those on the scoreboard either.
No.
Justin Fields early on, there was that deep pass to Jameson Williams. Williams was open. It was a double move. It was an out and up, and he was open, and Fields threw it out of bounds. And I thought that's not.
Yeah, that's
him.
Weird. Yeah,
it was very weird. And all game long until we heard that he had a bum thumb, it's like it seemed like this is a windy, wet game. The quarterback. This is like a JT Barrett game in November 20th, or this type of weather where it's 35 and just misting. Where I understand you're not gonna. It's December. It's the Big Ten. You're gonna have these games, but this one was inside, and it was just so puzzling, even early on.
Yeah. He never looked right. He just looked off,
rattled.
Which and is he rattled? Is he just pressing? I mean, there were people suggesting on Twitter that he was, trying to win himself the Heisman, and Day was trying to get him in the Heisman. Like, I don't know that either of them are really thinking about that right now. I mean, and for whatever reason he was pressing. Maybe Northwestern was doing something to get him uncomfortable. He didn't really get into it, but. This is the second time. The second half against Indiana, he's just looked a little not quite himself, and that's just all the more reason why it was like, why are you not running the guy who's running for 10 yards? I mean, he's literally picking up just shy of a first down every time you give him the ball. You should consider doing that more, because I know the game plan was. That we talked about coming in. The game plan is probably a bunch of quick outs, and Fields is so accurate on those, and he just wasn't today. He was just off, and. It happens. You are not going to be the single most accurate quarterback in the history of college football every single week. That is not a reasonable expectation. He was fine. He wasn't fantastic, but it just didn't look right. And I'm sure that Clemson, who is probably who Ohio State's going to play next, is going to be looking at this film, looking at the Indiana film, and going, what did they do, and how can we do it too?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we were expecting passes to the tight ends today. I don't think that could happen because he was being pressured so early, so often that they had to keep the tight ends in quite a bit. And I saw a few plays where it was max protect with like 2 or 3 guys going out on routes, and you've got 4 guys defending them, or 5 guys sometimes in the secondary, and there's just nobody open, and there's no one to throw to. And we've heard so much about how Fields is only looking at Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And when Olave is your first read, he's usually going to be open. And now that player was Julian Fleming, and we saw how often he went to him early on. And then eventually that stopped because the throwing stopped. But we saw the out route, the weird out route to Jameson Williams, where Williams, I think, gave up on it because he was almost out of bounds, so he turned it up. And as soon as he turned it up, Fields threw the interception, threw the ball, and it was intercepted. So I think there was... I don't know if it's lack of trust. I don't know if it's just lack of the communication and the just the cohesiveness. It was off all day, and maybe it wasn't all on Fields because, like I said, he was getting pressured early on, and maybe they didn't have enough guys in routes because they had to keep some guys in. Yeah,
well, and I mean, I think part of it is just what you talked about earlier, which is it has been so glaring that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are the 2 people he's looking for in every play, that he's getting asked about it during press conferences. Ryan Day's getting asked about it during press conferences. And then when you don't have one of those guys, I mean, we heard early this week that Olave was going to be out, and it was like, oh, that's going to be real interesting because I don't know who else he trusts. And you can't just have one guy.
Yeah.
Because then, I mean, if we know that Justin Fields only throws to 2 guys, Northwestern probably did some film study this week, or at least pulled up some box scores and went, it seems as if all of the throws are going to these 2 guys. And there was enough out there about Olave this week that I would guess that Northwestern probably heard about it. And then that makes it, then your game plan can just be, don't let Garrett Wilson beat us. And I don't know what Garrett Wilson finished with. He
wasn't many.
It wasn't many. No, the over-under on catches for him was 7 for the game. And I looked at that and went, oh, that'll be an easy over. And then I don't think it was. He had a couple, when he had catches, he made 2 like circus catches, like big leaping catches on the sidelines. One was on the near sideline, kind of near midfield. One was on the far sideline towards the end of the game. Got kind of leaping catch, got 1 foot in. You can check my Twitter account. I posted photos of both of those. I got good shots of both of those. But I mean, that was one that Ryan Day talked about. Like he really made some big plays.
He was 4 for 49.
4 catches, 49 yards. I mean, and Northwestern does not have super fantastic athletes that can just go one-on-one with Garrett Wilson, but if they don't need to go one-on-one with Garrett Wilson, if they can kind of go 2-on-1 with Garrett Wilson, well, that makes it a whole lot easier for them.
Although the cornerback with the interception, that was his 6th interception, an incredible interception, one-handed in the end zone against Garrett Wilson. Another throw that was off, where it could have been placed better, and it's just so bizarre to see a game like that from Justin Fields. Julian Fleming, as I mentioned, 4 for 53. It looked like he was going to do some things until the issues with the thumb, and that was good to see. He had to drop early, but Fields kept going right back to him on those quick outs, and he looked good. And almost the one where he skirted down the sideline just got knocked out of bounds a little bit, or would have scored. You could see some things there that's you can see why people like him so much. And next year, I mean, if he's the Z, I mean he's going to get the ball quite a bit. And you mentioned Wilson and Olave. I think they have like 35 and 34 catches, and nobody else has more than like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So,
and Jackson Smith and Jigba being out today too was big, because we heard Olave first, and then it was like, okay, well, I guess they'll just put Jackson Smith and Jigba at Z, or maybe you put Jackson Smith and Jigba at H and move Wilson back outside, and then like a day or two later, we heard Jackson Smith and Jigba, and it was like, huh. And now what?
Yep.
So, and they did I think what we had talked about, which is go a lot more 2 tight end, 12 personnel. And if this is, Ryan Day talked after the game about the fact that they're, I think they're working on trying to get the 21-day rule changed from the Big Ten. If you can get Chris Olave back for the semifinal, that changes a lot of things. That makes this a different team if you have Olave and Wilson and Trey Sermon and Justin Fields. Here are the 2 questions that you need resolved, as we have a loud truck driving by right now, so we're sorry about that. Two questions you need resolved. Number 1, is Chris Olave going to be eligible under the Big Ten rule? Number 2, is Justin Fields' thumb going to be okay? How okay is Justin Fields' thumb going to be? Because the semifinal game is 12 days away, I think, or 13 days away. I think it's Friday night, so I think it's 2 weeks from last night. So if you can have Justin Fields take a week, ice it, rest it, get it better, and then be able to do a week of practice, like great. I would guess that there's a decent chance Justin Fields does not pick up a football between now and December 26th or so.
Yeah, I mean it's bowl practices. That's when the young kids get in there and get to show their stuff. The defense, Tom, holding Northwestern's offense, the explosive offense, to just 10 points, which is what I predicted that they would do. Tom, you said, oh no, 10 points. Are you crazy? This is Northwestern we're talking about. You said Ohio State will hold Northwestern to 20. And I ask you, Tom, what was the score of today's game?
22. One of the teams had 22, which is extremely close to 20. I think.
Oh, really?
I forget which one, but I mean, I'm not here to talk about numbers. We're not here. I don't want to confuse you. There's a lot of math involved here, but I think what I was more irritated by prediction-wise was it's not that hard for Ohio State to get to 38 points from where they were.
Yeah,
they had 22. They had the ball at the 5-yard line. Trey Sermon almost ran one in at the end anyway, because that would have gotten them to 29. You kick a couple, you go for it instead of kicking field goals a couple times, and ta-da, there you are.
Yeah, they kicked 4 times, had the Trey Sermon thing at the end that didn't score, and you throw an interception in the end zone. That's 6 scoring opportunities where you get 9 points.
Yeah.
So
that's actually not nice.
That's not nice. Good job, Tom.
Thank you. So I think do we take the turn to the college football playoff right now? And
let's do it.
We have had a steady stream of questions coming in. We will probably scroll through those in just a little bit, but let's just run through some college football playoff stuff real quick. Last I saw, if someone can throw the updated score for the Notre Dame Clemson game in the chat, I would appreciate it. When we walked outside, it was Clemson 24, Notre Dame 3 at the half, and I think that's just like.
Yep.
This is kind of what I expected. Still 24-3. So, I mean, we talked about this before the game. Like, Notre Dame has the argument, and the argument is, we've won 10 games, and we beat Clemson. And it's like, okay, the asterisk on one of those things is 6 of the 10 teams you played are absolute garbage. And the asterisk on your best win is no Trevor Lawrence, no 3 defenders, at home, and it took overtime. I mean, like that. I mean, I think one of the shows this week we talked about the fact that you keep going with you keep applying some of the some of the stuff that Clemson was missing the first time onto this game, and it's like okay, and now Notre Dame loses by 17 points. Like and it may be more, and you're. What I think this now has probably gotten Ohio State in comfortably. If Notre Dame's really going to lose, unless Notre Dame comes back and loses 27-21 or something like that, at this point, Notre Dame has to be the 4 seed. Ohio State has to be ahead of Notre Dame because now Notre Dame's first big signature win is like, and then what happened?
Yeah.
And North Carolina is fine, but North Carolina is not any better than Northwestern
North Carolina
or
lost
Indiana.
To Florida State.
Yeah, I mean it's just not.
And then the argument goes to Notre Dame and Texas A&M because Iowa State is now out, and I don't think anybody had Oklahoma in.
No.
So it's those two, and Ohio State is in.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's fine if there's a committee argument. Ohio State is completely fine with the fact that there's a committee argument. They just want the committee to be arguing about other people, because if the committee's arguing about should Notre Dame be in or Texas A&M be in, then you know what that means? That means Ohio State's already in.
Right.
Like that's an argument for the 4th spot, not for the 3rd spot. So, and Texas A&M, I guess Jimbo Fisher was doing some politicking after the game, but I mean, I don't. They beat Tennessee 34-13, which is like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's Tennessee. Tennessee has been such a bad team this year that if they had gone into to Knoxville and hung a 45-0 win, then that's like that's a little bit of a statement, and you can make his case for it. This is just like, well, we keep beating these bad teams that we have to play, and it's like, it's okay, but there's nothing about that team that suggests that their offense is materially better positioned to put a competitive game up against Alabama. So why do you want to, like, the committee wants 2 competitive semifinals and a competitive final if they can. I don't think Alabama, Texas A&M Part 2 is going to give them a competitive game. I think that's going to be a boring game that people will probably not be that interested in watching.
Exactly. We've seen that one, and so does that come into play, and do they go with Notre Dame instead? Simply because we've already seen what happens when Alabama plays Texas A&M, although we've already seen what happens when Notre Dame plays Clemson, and sometimes the outcome changes. But that's a little bit different than the Alabama-Texas A&M example, and that would just be a straight rematch, Alabama-Texas A&M. And I think everybody knows how that will go. Everybody assumes how the Alabama-Notre Dame game will go. That's part of the problem this year when there's maybe no outstanding number 4, or Alabama is just so much better than everybody else, or so much better than the number 4, whoever.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a year where I think there are 3 good teams. Maybe 3.5 if you want to say Notre Dame's pretty good. But Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, very clearly the 3 best teams in the country, I think. I don't think that you're going to find anyone who's going to, anyone who is not a partisan who is going to have an opinion about that, that is different from that. At this point, you have to assume Alabama wins tonight. Alabama's number 1. Clemson very clearly number 2 at this point. Ohio State slides up to number 3 because if Notre Dame's getting drubbed, Notre Dame is not going to be the number 3 seed, and they're not going to want to play Clemson Notre Dame Part 3 anyway. That's not. Yeah. I mean, talk about games that are not compelling. Like, okay, now we've seen this game twice. Do we need to see it a third time? Probably not. So I would say right now, if you give me Ohio State plays Clemson in the 2-3 game in the Rose Bowl, probably in Arlington, Texas, I will let you take literally every other outcome and bet you whatever you want to bet on that. What you want to take that action?
No.
Yeah, I think we are very likely you and I going to be getting in a car or an airplane and going to Arlington, Texas, and watching the Buckeyes and Clemson play.
Yeah, I saw a report that it's imminent, so we will see.
Yeah,
that's got to be soon.
Yeah, well, yeah, it does. It does have to be soon because, I mean, media has to book their flights and their hotels, and they have to get stuff ready for all of the teams. And I mean, these are huge. You're basically blocking up a whole hotel. You've got to get your plane set up for wherever you're going and all of that. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty. I think I would be fairly surprised if it's not Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. But if it's Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M, like, yeah, okay, maybe I can buy this. Maybe they put in Oklahoma if they really, really, really feel crazy. But I think that would have probably required Oklahoma to keep running up the score on Iowa State. Yeah. Like, it looked like they were going to have to. Right. I mean, at halftime, it looked like they were going to be about 48-14. And at that point, it's like, oh, man. And then the second half, Iowa State came back and ended up a 6-point game.
And maybe Florida will pull off the upset tonight.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on that. And if that does happen, then it's Clemson 1, probably Ohio State, Florida in the 2-3 game, and Alabama in the 4, probably. I mean, or it's Ohio State, or it's Clemson, Florida in the 1-4, and Alabama, Ohio State in the 2-3. That's possible too. But I mean, I am not holding my breath on Florida beating.
No.
And that would be very bad news. Florida beating, I think I came into the day thinking that Florida beating Alabama might be bad news for Ohio State. With the way Notre Dame is losing, I think now that's bad news for Notre Dame, not Ohio State.
Yeah. Do we want to get to questions?
Sure, we can get to questions. If you guys do have questions, you can throw them in the chat. I don't know how many of these we'll actually be able to get through because there have been 11 billion, but we will scroll through and at least try and hit as many as we can as quickly as possible. Vinay says tight ends were phenomenal in the run game. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yep, and Treebuck says tight ends were open so many times on crucial downs. There was on the 2-point conversion, Fields threw to Wilson, who was kind of the slot guy, and Luke Farrell, I think, was the outside receiver. And there was not a Northwestern defender within 10 yards of Luke Farrell, and Fields just never looked at him and threw to a covered Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I saw a couple of Jeremy Rucker going open on corner routes. There was one where Jamison Williams was the outlet in the flats, nobody around him, and he threw it to somewhere else on the other side, and Williams was just like begging, like gesturing, like, please give me the ball, and he was doing it to the sideline, and Keenan Bailey had to calm down.
Dr. Cortez Smith feels like not having a crowd is taking away from the intensity of the team's performance vibe. This game was supposed to be a blowout, no doubt about it. Getting rhythm next go round. I mean, there's going to be a crowd for whatever the semifinal is. I mean, minimally, it's going to be the families, and it's probably going to be more than that, I would guess. And I mean, there was noise. There were third downs where it was like the Ohio State parents got kind of loud when Kevin Warren got up and was introduced. He got booed, and it was like audible. You said you could hear it up from the press box. Yeah, that was the only
thing we could hear from the press box was the boos of Kevin Warren.
I mean, and it is a better atmosphere when the families are there, at least, than when there's no one there. I mean, like the Indiana game, when there's no one there, that's weird. One thing I did notice, the Ohio State backup offensive linemen, especially the younger guys, all on the sidelines, jumping up and down, waving towels. I mean, like they are. I mean, Ryan Day talks about how they need to bring their own energy. Yeah. They are trying. They're doing it. They're doing what they can. I suspect they'll have some kind of a crowd, even if it's 5,000 people. And after this season, 5,000 people is going to seem like raucous. Yeah. I mean, that's going to seem just crazy.
By the way, Tom, the booze of Kevin Warren, also Kevin Warren's new wine line.
I like it. Kevin Warren's Distillery. Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about the atmosphere inside the stadium, because this was... I saw someone calling me the Kroger Cart bowling champion of the world. This was not a Kroger game. This was a dollar store championship game. It was just a weird vibe. The first thing I tweeted out as soon as I got in the stadium was a picture of the field and said, "Hey, there's a Colts game here tomorrow." So they have the Colts end zones in there instead of the Ohio State Northwestern ones and all that. And people just went crazy over that. And it was I thought that was weird because there may be a protocol, there may be a process, that it has to have this much time. Maybe they didn't have enough time, maybe they didn't have a crew to turn it, whatever it is. And it was okay, I'll show the Big Ten a little grace on that. And I think the SEC has their field, and the Falcons are playing at the same time as the Colts are tomorrow, and the SEC game is 8 hours later. So really they should have probably been able to do that. But it was okay, that's fine.
No effort.
That's not gonna make me, that's not gonna drive me crazy. I positioned myself behind the tunnel for Ohio State to run out, so I can get a cool picture of Ohio State running out with the pyro going off, but the empty stadium behind him for this cool, weird. And then there was no pyro, and it was just Ohio State just running out of the tunnel. Okay, so there's no painted field, no pyro. Okay. After the game, normally the stage is set up. The front of the stage is all lit up with the Big Ten Championship Game logo, and it's a big one-piece thing they wheel onto the field. This was we got some risers, and we have a black curtain, and normally they have confetti falling from the ceiling and cannons that shoot streamers and confetti everywhere. And there was nothing. It was just and now they're standing on the podium, and they're getting they did spend money on a trophy this year. That was good.
Was it last year's trophy?
I don't think it was a recycled trophy.
Ohio State, can you just bring in?
Yeah, can you just bring last year's
trophy?
Yeah,
it's like the Illabuck.
Yeah, no, it was just very odd. It was just there were a lot of spots where corners got cut, and I know everyone is under real budget crunches this year, and I know that everyone is having to make tough choices. It was just, I'll be interested to see what the ACC title game celebration looks like. I'll be interested to see what the SEC title game celebration looks like, because the Big Ten was just it was like the family dinner, and they go out to dinner, and it's Dad, can we get an appetizer? No.
Yeah.
Dad, can we get dessert? No. Dad, can we get can I upsize my combo? No.
You guys are sharing a kid's meal.
This was the double stack championship game. That's it. It's good. No disrespect to Wendy's.
No.
But yeah, there was a little bit of this is a Wendy's going on in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, no, and there was no atmosphere upstairs because you couldn't hear anything. But it just, it was into the second quarter, and you look at the clock, and it's it's 1 p.m.
Yeah.
This just doesn't feel right. Yeah. Because in this building, because we've been here 4 years in a row covering the game, and it's this wasn't. There's usually just this. It's more grand. It's more epic. It's definitely more special when everything's going on and everything is buzzing and there's all kinds of things going on. There's just nothing going on.
Well, and normally during a normal year, you come down here, and if you walk around downtown Indy, there's fans everywhere.
Yeah.
Bars are packed. And obviously, we know why that's not the case this year. There's nothing you can do about that. They could have had 12,000, 17,000, whatever the number is, fans here. They chose not to do that. But they're just have the 12,000 fans here, have them spend money on tickets, and then spend the money that you earn from your tickets on making this feel like an event and not feel this should not feel like a early season Ohio State versus Bowling Green game. Just not. It was just. This is supposed to be your league's signature event in your league's biggest sport. That Fox is going to make $18 million on the advertising from this game. Spend $5,000 on some pyro. Spend $5,000 on some streamers. Bring the normal stage out. You can spend $100,000 on making this event still feel like an event. You can make it look like an event on TV, and not make it look like the third grade Mr. Warren's third grade class presents the Big Ten championship game, a play by Kevin Warren. Like,
I do wonder. Let us know, what did it look like on television? Could you tell it was underwhelming, or was the piped-in crowd enough to kind of, were you deceived? I guess we should say.
Yeah, it was just a very there was as we said, there was a lot of weird stuff going on today, but yeah, it was very much not like a normal game. Let's see. Michael says Sermon looked a lot like Zeke today. I mean, he looked like Zeke in the Big Ten championship game, and then he kept running for another 80 yards or so on top of that. Vinay says A&M struggled in the beginning too. Yeah, I mean, that's just. I think that's everything. David says Clemson's about to really pull away from Notre Dame. Vinay says, Tom and Tony, you're surprised to not see as many crossing routes in the beginning of the game.
There was Gary Wilson had a really long one, but Fields got hit right as he threw it, and it felt like maybe they were just unable to get some of those. But then also, I think there are a lot of vertical routes, and they were just all covered.
Yeah. Cheryl says Coach Day will learn from this game. She's not stressing it. I mean, what does Ryan Day's takeaway from this game?
Run the ball when it's working. You can be aggressive as a running team as well. We've seen that aggression can also come through with the tempo and the running game. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen much tempo with these guys lately, and you can be aggressive that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Clemson apparently up 31-3 now. Brian Kelly might not go to the playoff even if parents are invited.
Right. You know what? I'm going to stand my ground.
Yeah.
I'm not going to the playoffs.
What a principled stand. Okay, Chris, Cheryl says Lawrence running against Notre Dame like he did against the Buckeyes last season. I mean, that's, I have thought for several weeks now that if Ohio State could somehow end up playing Notre Dame in the semifinals, Ohio State might kill them. I have really, people have been in such a rush to crown Notre Dame. No. This Notre Dame team is different.
Right.
It's like every year, no, sir, you don't understand. This Notre Dame team is different. And then they go in, and then they get to the exact point in the season where they have to play a good team at the end of the year, and they just get turned into an absolute grease streak. I mean, just right into the wood chipper in the exact same way every time, and it's like, no, but this time it's going to be different.
And eventually you have to make the difference yourself, like Clemson did, after all of the years of Clemsoning, like Ohio State did under Jim Tressel, and eventually then Urban Meyer took them to that next level into BCS, and beyond. But yeah, eventually you have to get over and overcome the shortcomings that your program has, and then people might start to believe in you. Right now, I can't do it with Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's let's see. People are saying it felt very underwhelming on watching on TV. Yeah. It was terrible. Pac-12 looked better. Not a good look.
Oh wow! How dare you?
Streamers.
It's Pac-12.
There's just.
That's sad.
It's supposed to look one way, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And there was a way, there's some stuff that was into their control and some stuff that was out of their control. Someone suggested it might have been an issue with the Colts, that the Colts couldn't do it. I suspect, you take all the stuff together, with the issue with the Colts being why the field was the way it was. I was more than willing to show the Big Ten some grace on that when the day started. You look at all the other stuff, the no pyro, the no streamers, the no stage. It's like, okay, so what that probably meant was the issue, if the SEC can turn it, then time-wise, was not the issue. So then it's, what does it cost to turn the field at the facility overnight on short notice? You're probably, I'm guessing this is a union gig. I'm guessing that your weekend overnights, you're paying double time, triple time. Yeah. It probably would have cost $15,000 or $20,000, or I'm pulling these numbers out of nowhere, but whatever. I'm going to guess that was the issue that led them to not have the field look like it did.
Felt bad because there's no confetti because somebody's got to clean all that up. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, there were some Buckeyes who still went out onto the field to do confetti angels with no confetti, and it's like you're taking that experience away from the players as well, because we've all seen the pictures like Durant Grant in 2014 and all of these great photos, and it's something you get to experience 4 times in your life if you're a Buckeye, and then this time gets taken away from them.
Well, and this is this is the burden of Ohio State, is you have an expectation of what normally when you win a conference championship game, this is what it's like. If Northwestern had won this game, Northwestern would not have cared if they even put the stage up. Like, just hand us the trophy and that's it.
Let's get out of Dodge.
Ohio State, they remember what it was like last year. And, normally we're down on the field with the players. Normally, the players, I have pictures of all sorts of players. Josh Myers, Jonah Jackson, holding that football at Silver Football, kissing the football. They made an announcement, no kissing the football. And again, this is just one of these things that all of those players love that picture, because that's just they're not just putting a little peck on it. They're sitting there and they're holding it because they want you to get a good picture of them kissing the football, because they want that picture, because this is something they're going to have over their mantle for the rest of their lives. And this is just one more of those things that's not in the Big Ten. The Big Ten did not create the pandemic, but it's just one more. Probably. I haven't seen that conspiracy theory. I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories involving the Big Ten and involving the pandemic, but not the overlap there in that Venn diagram. But again, this is just one more little thing that was just a little off. But in the end, I wasn't sure what Ryan Day's mood was going to be after the game. I wondered if Ryan Day was going to be downcast, annoyed at himself. Ryan Day was as upbeat and inspired and inspiring as you ever see him, and that's just a testament to all the crap that they have had to go through to get to this point.
He said he just wants this week he said he just wants the players to have something to show for all of their effort. Mm-hmm. Now they have at least one thing to show for it. Mm-hmm. And then you build on this, because this was also a goal. Get to Indy. That's the rallying cry this year. And then when you get there, then good things can happen. And so we will see tomorrow about that part.
Yeah, and it's I think that they got they have accomplished goal number 1 of their goals. Get to Indy. They've accomplished goal number 2. Win the Big Ten. They're going to accomplish goal number 3 tomorrow. Get into the college football playoff. All the other goals are within reach. I think that, depending on how this Clemson game goes, and obviously we are not able to watch the Clemson game right now because we are outside talking to you, but if they're really beating Notre Dame 31-3, I don't know that I think Ohio State is going to be favored in the 2-3 matchup with Clemson.
Right.
But
that might change.
And here's another thing that I think we should, before we leave the how difficult this season has been, let us travel back together, friends, to the Rosemont, Illinois parking lot in August, when Randy Wade, Shaun Wade's dad, bought a plane ticket to Illinois, flew up there, and said, I'm going to have a protest at the Big Ten office. And it was just like, I don't give a crap if you think I'm crazy or not. Yeah. I'm going. Who's coming with me? And, it's real easy to, be, in like Animal House, like, let's do it. And, what was it over when Kevin Warren bombed Pearl Harbor? No. And you can be the idiot who runs out by yourself. Like that's a real leap of faith. And I tweeted this tonight after the game. I took a screenshot of Dan Wolken's tweet from that day, which was, I'll just paraphrase it. It was basically like, people can do whatever they want with their time. I don't know what parents are thinking they're going to accomplish by protesting at the league office today.
There you go.
Ta-da! There are a whole lot of people who deserve a whole lot of credit for things this year. And the Ohio State players, the Ohio State coaches, the Ohio State families, they should be, everyone always says, oh, no, everyone is a part of the program. Everyone has had a piece of the championship. And normally it's like, kind of. This year it's like, no. Randy Wade was a key part of this. Amanda Peterson-Babb, who's the president of the Parents Association, was a key part of this. All of those parents who showed up in Illinois and got laughed at. All of those parents who showed up at Ohio Stadium on what was supposed to be the first game week and gave speeches, and everyone went, what are you thinking you're going to accomplish? And now their kids are 6-0 and Big Ten champions and about to go to the college football playoff. And, we'll see where it goes from here, but that's not nothing. They have accomplished quite a bit, actually, Dan Wolken.
Do you think the parents should get Big Ten title rings?
I don't know if that's a. I don't know if that's an NCAA thing. I don't know. That may also be a budget thing. The budget hole has not been completely patched, but I mean, if they gave some sort of national championship watches to parents, if that was allowed, or pendants if they win a national championship, or I don't know, some kind of gold pants type thing to the moms, whatever. Like, I would co-sign that. Yeah. That's and I don't think there's anyone in the world that appreciates what everyone has done for this program more than Ryan Day. Ryan Day is like, he at one point this afternoon after the game said, like, we've talked about this a lot, but I don't think you guys understand this. Like, how much everyone has sacrificed, and I mean, people have not hugged their kid since I don't remember if it was an Ohio State player, a player from one of the Oregon players last night. People have not hugged their kids since March. Like, I saw Josh Myers talking to, I assume, a relative of his after the game, and Josh Myers is down on the field, and whoever he was talking to was 7 rows up behind the tarp that has tarped off the first 7 rows of the crowd so that no one can get too close to the field and accidentally hug someone, or I mean, and it's just like we're all going through some flavor of this year. It's been a little more extreme for the Ohio State football players, and now they're going to do it, and now they're not going to see their families for Christmas because they have to stay in their little quasi bubble to get another 13 days to get to the playoffs. And then
watching a game last week, wherever it was, where the players are hugging family members in the stands from another conference, and it's just two different worlds. And what Ohio State is going through, and Daya said it's been tougher for Ohio State than anybody else in the nation, and that's one of the reasons. Like, just they're cut off from everybody.
Let's see. Go back through a few more. Jordan says if OSU player wins the national championship, each player's parent gets a week of being the Big Ten commissioner. I think that might be. Not sure that'll go, but maybe. Michael says he was not saying maybe run the ball, using a whole other vocabulary. Worst coaching of an OSU team I've seen in a good long time. That was, I mean, unquestionably, that was the worst game management I have seen from Ryan Day, bar none. I don't know what number 2 is, but that was number 1.
What about the throw the screen over to the left out of the blue? Like, I think there's a fake right, and then you threw it left, and it's like that. What is this?
Yeah, it was a little too clever. Michael says, did you admit you were wrong about it being a blowout? Yes, multiple times. Thank you for joining us.
All we do here is admit being wrong about stuff. Except for when Tom, what did I predict Northwestern would score today? 10
points, I believe.
How many did they score today, Tom?
I don't know. I didn't get a final stat packet. Sorry, I was down.
I'll let you know, Tom. It was 10 points. And so we don't like to toot our own horns here and tell everybody when we're right about stuff. But I was right about one thing. And I'm just going to toot my own horn on that.
Everyone. There's a few people who are interested in telling us how wrong we were before the game. I did go back through my tweets tonight. I quote tweeted something that I posted. Whenever it was that Wisconsin lost to Northwestern, said this is bad for Ohio State. Because now this is a team. Northwestern is a team you are not going to completely annihilate. You're not going to 59-0 them, and you're not going to get credit for the fact that this is a good team that's going to hold you. That's holding you down. This is.
You had them winning by 18 points. They won by 12.
Yeah, I mean that's
and left a touchdown on the board at the end.
And could have scored a touchdown at the end. Yes, so
you're still wrong.
I was deeply several people, or I've seen several questions about is Dabo scared of Ohio State? I think Ohio State probably needs to beat Dabo once before Dabo has any real reason to be scared. I'm sure Dabo would much rather play Texas A&M or Notre Dame, but I don't think that's probably a big concern. Let's see. Haskell Garrett had a good game putting pressure. I mean, it seemed like they had a lot of pressure, but they never got there. It was like the classic Ohio State 2020 defensive line. Like
Tyreek Smith is so close, so often.
Yeah, and then he got there once and got a late hit penalty. Yeah, that was, and you could tell that was just a frustration. Let's see. Yeah, I think we've mostly gone through. We have had a lot of
people telling us how wrong we are.
questions. Yes, a lot of questions. Yeah, I think we've scrolled through pretty much everything at this point. I'll go back to the end just to make sure we haven't missed anything else. But anything with, what is your expectation? Let's have your prediction for the Big Ten championship.
For the Big Ten championship,
I'm sorry, for the college
I like
football playoff.
Ohio State.
I'll take 22-10. What's your pick? Here, I'll give you a little bonus. Trey Sermon sets the Ohio State single-game rushing record, 325 yards.
I'll go over.
Over? Okay. I don't remember how many yards he had. It
331.
31. Oh, well, that was bold. What's your final answer on the college football playoff right now?
They are in. They will be the 3 seed with Clemson being 2, Alabama being 1. And Notre Dame is blowing it right now for that 4 seed. I think Texas A&M might be. Jimbo's lighting up a cigar and probably shotgunning some beers, I guess, is what you do if you're him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you want to celebrate that, because I know, I know that,
we're in. Now, who do we play?
Yeah, they want to get in, and I'm sure they think they're going to beat Alabama. And I think there's, there is a long history of people saying we want Bama, and then it turning out that they did not, in fact, want Bama. Right. That, I think, might be how that ends.
I think people need, Jimbo, that's a meme.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. It's just something people say.
No.
But I will be surprised if he doesn't also try to say how much better they are than Clemson or Ohio State, so that they can try to avoid that 4 seed. And the committee ain't going to want a rematch with Alabama and Texas A&M in that first round. That wouldn't be fair to the Aggies and whatever. That's my Jimbo impersonation.
Yeah. I think you got to be a little higher pitched. He's a little more high
That's
pitch.
Dan Mullen.
It is a little. There's some similarities.
But you're right.
There.
But
there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
And if Florida somehow beats Alabama tonight, that's the only thing that really throws anything else off. But
Tom, Australian Dan Mullen.
Not even going to try. Not even going to try.
You had to sit down and take notes. I got to do it this way. No, it's been too long of a day.
It has been
We've been here for 15 hours.
It has been way too long of a day, and we have another 3 hours or so to drive home. So can't wait.
Are we done? What's this?
I think we're done.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Michael does ask if we had to go to St. Elmo's last night for dinner. No, we kept it very simple last night. We got here, we did our post game show. We picked something up with it through a drive-through and headed back to the hotel, and that was it.
That was it. Watched.
Turns out these work trips are actually mostly work.
Thought we were going to watch the Pac-12 championship game on the TV, but Dish and Fox were having some issues, so we just watched it on the laptop.
So, all right, well, we'll. We're probably going to have another show tomorrow. That's how this typically goes. This weekend, we'll. I think we're expecting to talk to Ryan Day. I mean, the show is at noon. We should be talking to Ryan Day shortly after the selection show. So I'm going to guess we'll have a podcast out mid to late afternoon tomorrow with all sorts of talk about Ohio State and where they're headed for the college football playoff.
And should Texas A&M have jumped them like they did? So look forward to that, because we will rant about that for sure. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for enjoying the game today. I know you probably didn't enjoy some of it, but it was a fun afternoon. It was another Big Ten title. Next year, it'll just look like 4 in a row. It's like you won't even remember how ugly it was.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually true, because they were talking on the video board or something before the game about past Big Ten title games, and I remember last year's game where Ohio State was trailing at halftime, but they were talking about the 2018 game, and Ohio State jumped out to a big lead, and then Northwestern cut it to 3 in the second half. It's like, I don't remember any of that. It's just kind of like a blur, and all you remember is they beat them by, I don't know, like 15, 17 points.
But I remember 59-0. Funny how that happens.
That one stands out. They had the Big Noon Saturday crew on the scoreboard with like these little pre-recorded video segments about my favorite Big Ten title game memory. And Reggie Bush was like, it was last year because it's the only time I've gone. But Urban Meyer, surprisingly, was 2014 when he won 49-0 and then won the national championship. I was like, what's Urban Meyer going to pick?
Yeah.
The Michigan State-Iowa game? That wasn't, not that one? No. I mean, 2013, you got pizza. That's always fun.
Come on.
But no, turns out he picked out 2014. I was as surprised as you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.